With just 12 days remaining before the November election, last night, Kamala Harris held a town hall in Pennsylvania. Even liberal media was critical, though, of the VP's performance. At one point, Anderson Cooper asked Kamala to point out a mistake that she's made and that she's learned from in her life. Here's what she had to say.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life or in your life in the last 4 years, that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes, and they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
Chris Bedford joins us now. He's our senior politics editor for Blaze News. So, Chris, I look at this town hall and I compare it with her debate performance, right? She was out there for 90 minutes and she was able to sustain herself in that debate. And then we get her sound bites here in the town hall. So why were they so different, in your opinion? Why are we seeing this version of Kamala now?
I think it's just preparation. I mean, that debate, she was the most prepared she's ever been. She kind of alludes to that a little bit in her answer to Anderson of what she would actually do differently, what the lessons she's learned is that preparation is essential. I mean, the reality is when you walk into CNN, you might be lulled into expecting, if you're the Democrat, that you're going to be treated with kids' gloves, that their main interest right now is just trying to get you ahead, not trying to actually push you or up their ratings or anything. And there's some reason to believe that. I mean, I think the news, if you watched that CNN tried to break on this, was Kamala Harris, you've never once called Donald Trump a fascist. You've called him Hitler, but you've not called him a fascist. Will you do that tonight? And she did. Big whoop-de-doo, huge headlines. So I guess that's probably what she was assuming in that. And the reality is you do these interviews, the way that you get better at them is doing more of them and more of them and more of them. At this point, with somewhat kind of the memory that a lot of folks have of politics, it seems like Kamala Harris is running a normal political campaign. She's going on networks. She's going on Fox. She's going on CNN. She's going places. She's answering questions from reporters. It almost makes you realize forget that it's only 2.5 weeks old, that she's been willing to talk to anyone, that it wasn't until the polls collapsed on them or showed signs of collapsing that they were willing to answer questions. So she's got no practice. I mean, at the end of the day, this is what you saw with J.D. Vance's performance. It's 500 plus interviews, most of which are hostile. And that shows when you're someone. Also, at the end of the day, intelligence shows. And Kamala Harris has shown herself to be a shrewd political player, someone who is capable of rising, someone who is ambitious. But as far as politicians go, this doesn't make her much of an outlier. She hasn't shown very much intelligence.
What I loved about this one was the way in which Anderson Cooper just gives her the Cooper stare. Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Are you serious, right? Doesn't change, doesn't break, just gives her the stare. Much like Oprah actually, was staring at her when she went off into one of those word salad monologues. But speaking of word salad.
Yeah, word salad. I want to get your take, though, Bedford, because on CNN, David Axelrod called Kamala out for her word salad.
When she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go to word salad city. And she did that on a couple of answers. One was on Israel. Anderson asked a direct question, would you be stronger on Israel than Trump? And there was a 7-minute answer, but none of it related to the question he was asking.
I think you could knock me over with a feather right now. There's actual commentary right now on CNN pushing back against a Democrat nominee. What do you make of it, Bedford?
Well, every time I see Axelrod say something negative about a Democrat, I think you have to assume that Barack Obama gave the thumbs up or the nod. Barack Obama made David Axelrod. He was an outside political figure. The way that Obama was able to establish the control he has over the Democratic Party is he was never expected to win the Democratic primary. Hillary Clinton was the chosen one. So everyone who had made money, everyone who was an old school political commentator, everyone who was an old school pundit, pollster, they joined with the winning campaign, which turned out to be the losing campaign. So all these new folks, including Axelrod and others, Messina, who had gone on and been early believers with Obama, were then given full power to basically do what they want. But at the end of the day, they still answer to him. He's still kind of in charge. When you heard Axelrod attack Joe Biden, it was because Obama had gotten sick of Joe Biden. And it just does actually kind of shine a little light here. In order to have known that she had gone on for 7 minutes without answering anything, it means you had to have been paying attention. Not something that you or me or Matt might be doing, but I was surprised to see a Democratic commentator and Democratic campaign consultant doing the same. That means he's willing to call it out. That means I think that I kind of wondered watching this when you saw Cooper, when you saw Axelrod go after her, if they had decided, well, maybe I'll just work on maintaining my credibility, because there's no point in tying yourself to the Titanic and saying, I want to swim hard enough to keep this thing afloat. Maybe it's about personal credibility.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the growing amount of evidence of Halperin's thesis that right, Obama did not want her in the first place, but ended up being stuck with her.
The last to endorse her.
Yeah. And this is living proof when you see him come out and say that. On the other hand, if you don't come out and defend this, if you don't come out and sort of acknowledge that she's bad, right? Rather, you have to defend it. And that's very hard to do.
Well, it is. And Van Jones, though, he was a little bit more forgiving of Kamala Harris's performance. Take a look.
There were flashes of the Kamala that I know, who is really a true public servant. She really does work for real people. And in the back of her mind, she is trying to figure out, how do I solve the problem? She sometimes skips, even in person, she'll sometimes skip the human part and get to the problem-solving part. But there were flashes of it. And I think the question, if you're at home trying to figure this out, you can ask, well, could she have done this? Could she have done this better? Your job isn't to do town halls. Your job is to fight for people. Does she seem like somebody who is going to take seriously the problems of ordinary people and try to get an answer? And I think she passed that test. I think that the word salad stuff gets on my nerves. I think that some of the evasions are not necessary.
She just skipped the human part. That was all, Bedford. She just skipped the human part. She forgot that she had to be a human at the town hall first.
So Van Jones, I think, gets deserved credit for being not an idiot, which is rare on television. It's rare with political pundits. It's particularly rare with left-wingers. But you have to remember he's also absolutely part of the hard left of the Democratic Party. He's someone who is a full-blown progressive. He goes on there and he uses nice words and he talks about these great missions they have. Like, we're just going to replace white people with foreign people and it's going to be part of our plan. It's like, oh, that's really interesting, Van Jones. You said it so smart. But so for folks like him, Kamala Harris is interchangeable. The idea that she is some kind of selfless public servant is stupid on its face. You very rarely find that with any politician at the level that she is at, and it is especially not true nor believable with her. But to people like Van Jones, that she's an interchangeable part. It matters not that she is a bad politician. It matters not that she has not earned her way here. She's basically the Gerald Ford of Democratic nominees. It matters not that she tried to hide from the American people. What matters is that she is a progressive. She is part of what we are doing. She will advance the cause. And Donald Trump is bad. That's all that matters. Here's a gold star, Kamala Harris, because you showed up. At least that's something, right? That's what's most important to Van Jones. If you believe in his project, then he's right.
I love that. It's such a great way to say it. I mean, you get a gold star for showing up, right? And that really is what's left, because you don't have any other real positive attribute to hang your hat on. And it was such a telling remark. I mean, it really is like, if you're going to defend her, you have to say, well, she's fighting for us. I mean, that's
doesn't matter positive. If she can't answer questions. Who cares? I wish that she would actually say the truth, but the important thing is that she's fighting for us, guys.
That is. Now, if you look on the Republican side, Tucker Carlson came out and he had some optimism. Let's go ahead and take a listen to some of that optimistic outlook from Tucker.
I'm here because I'm so thrilled by what I've watched over the past 9 years. This is the end of a redemption arc. I've really never seen anybody treated like Donald Trump was treated. Ever. Anybody. Ever. Attack him. I watched this all up close. Defame him. Indict him. Arrest him. Let him get shot in the face. and he's going to win anyway.
Tucker just flat out says it, right? Exactly how he thinks. So do you think that the Republicans can actually be this optimistic right now? I think that's the vibe on our show right now. Is like, is there real optimism? Are we allowed to feel this way right now?
Well, I don't want to. You're not supposed to. It feels unnatural. I've been working as hard as I can to try and to get out of this positive viewpoint, to get out of what appears to be an echosphere and say, okay, well, what are the Democrats saying? And I can't find it. Except for the weirdos who run Drudge, which apparently one of our friends still checks, sends me screenshots every now and then. And to see their headlines reminds me of the optimistic headlines Drudge was running back in the day when Mitt Romney was clearly losing the election. It's like, oh, the latest poll shows us at only 49%. And there's no positive echo chamber for the Democratic Party right now, except potentially for the House of Representatives. It's actually not looking so great for Republicans right there, although to those poll nerds and poll scientists who are pointing that out, it's worth saying Donald Trump is not going to win by as much as or do as well as it appears he's going to without Republicans taking the House. So I would even dismiss that. And one of the things that Tucker said, and this is really true unvarnished Tucker. I've known him now for 14 years. I've seen him when he was guarding himself. He is not guarding himself anymore. He's doing really whatever he wants. One of the great things was pointing out that Democrats have tried to make Republicans, populists, conservatives, MAGA people feel like they are an awful minority, feel like they are alone out there, that they are radicals. And it's not true. People who listen to Donald Trump and say this has got a point, something's got to change, the Democrats and the Mitch McConnells are rotten. You're the majority of people right now. Don't let yourself be told by these folks that you're the weirdo. Democrats have abandoned the working class. They've abandoned, and it's slowly trickling down, a lot of black voters. They've abandoned Hispanic. They basically abandoned American voters. They've abandoned men, and they are actually kind of the party of weirdos. And it's important to kind of have that confidence, especially since unless you live in a red district in a red state, there's a lot of hate being poured towards you. There's a lot of lunatics out there. Your book group can be challenging. People think nothing in my parents' neighborhood where I grew up of putting up left-wing signs and saying things like this is not normal. Actually, maybe MAGA is normal. Maybe this is a populist rebellion that is grounded in American principles. And maybe it's actually testament to just how generous and kind and gentle the American people are that we've put up with this sick expert rule for as long as we have.
Well, you look at that, and it's just the way that it is right now.
Yeah, and I especially think this redemption arc theme that Tucker talked about is very powerful. A friend of mine after 2020 called me up, and I remember talking about this on the phone, and it immediately struck with me. He said, he has been rejected, and the next part is for after the rejection, right? This is a story, right? The next part is he comes in triumphant at the end. And there was something about it that just struck me. And if that actually happens, although I think it's going to be a little messier than that, even if he wins, but if that actually happens, I mean, it is going to fundamentally change, right? It'd be another ratchet, fundamentally change American politics in a way moving forward. People look back. And Tucker's point is, and I think it's not lost on people, there's a very, very powerful story here that is unfolding and that everyone can be part of if he gets back in after everything that has been done to him. And that's a fundamental fact that it can't be repeated enough right now. They've thrown everything at the guy and they're failing. I mean, so you can feel the tottering, right? In the sort of the spirit or the soul of the regime right now, because after all that, if he wins, it's sort of the emperor wears no clothes at that point.